Yeah, I can't.
He goes, I've been cut already. I like it.
Nobody.
I can see his
Bummer. I know. We should.
Make sure I sign one anyway. I'll sign.
Pittman, has got something special. I think he's got. Welcome, guys, to the Gridiron Gurus, presented by Famisphere. My name is Keith. I'm joined by Jesse, and here in just a little bit, we're going to be joined by Sparky Woods, the head advisor to Mac Brown at UNC. He stepped into this advisory role last year. He has been at a lot of different stops, including South Carolina and App State, as well as a lot of other ones. I think VMI, he was the head coach there for a while. So we're going to be welcoming on Sparky Woods here in just a few minutes. Jesse, I know you got a couple of things you want to talk about, Sparky, before we get started.
This one's a really fun one for me just because, he grew up right here where we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's from our hometown.
Right.
He's a local guy, and the amount of places that he's been, the amount of big programs that he's been to and coached at along the way, Tennessee, Kansas, Iowa State, he was at Appalachian State as a head coach before they, really kind of took off. He kind of really brought them up. South Carolina, the Jets. He had time in the NFL in New York. He's just had a really cool line
it is a really cool
of
career
history in his coaching career. And then now to be with Mac Brown, who we both have a huge amount of respect for.
Absolutely.
He's a future Hall of Fame coach, legendary coach. It's just really cool to see a guy, from here doing what he's doing.
Absolutely.
Really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he went to Carson Newman as a quarterback and defensive back. I think he played both sides of the ball in college and then got into coaching after that. So I'm kind of interested to see how he got into coaching. I know he's got a son that's into coaching too. I'm not sure where he's at. Last I checked, it was UAB, but it might have changed since I looked it up. I'm really interested to get him on here and start this interview. Welcome, guys. It's the Gridiron Gurus presented by Famisphere. My name's Keith, joined by Jesse, and then we're very lucky to have Sparky Woods, head advisor to the head football coach at UNC. Guy that is from a local town that where we're from. Really glad to have him on here. Welcome, Sparky.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to hear from people back at home.
Well, we're glad to have you. I'm going to let Jesse go ahead and kick this off with a question that he's got prepared for you.
Yeah, so first of all, Coach, super awesome to have you here. Very exciting to have a local guy, a small town, to see the things that you've been able to accomplish. So my first question, you're back at you're in North Carolina, and this is the second time now you've worked with Coach Brown, correct? You were the offensive coordinator in '83 when he was a head coach at App State. So my question is, how much contact did you and Coach Brown have throughout your careers, just talking football and other things? And how exciting was it to have the opportunity to work with Coach Brown again now at North Carolina?
Actually, Coach Brown and I started before Appalachian State. We were together at Iowa State as assistant coaches there. He was a quarterback coach, and I was a receiver coach together at Iowa State. And then he left Iowa State, and then he went to LSU, and then got the App State job and brought me to App State in there. But so we were together a couple of years there. And we were together when we were young. So, we had kind of palled around together and went to the coaches convention together and all. And actually, Coach Brown, we had a small world as it is, he's from Cookeville, Tennessee.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
Brother Don went to Tennessee Tech and actually did his student teaching at Putnam County High School there at the time. And Mac was in his class. So he had high school. So he knew him before I did, but Mac and I were together at Iowa State. I guess it was '83, something like that. And we were young, so we kind of palled around together and stuff. And then he went to App and brought me there, and then of course left App, and then I was able to stay. And then we did stay in touch. I think it's because when we were together early, we were young and kind of became friends and all. So we kind of stayed in contact. we actually competed against each other when he was here the first time, and I was in South Carolina. We used to play each other and
Yeah.
recruit against each other and all. But
Yeah.
he's been great to me. He's a good, great coach, Hall of Fame coach, and he's doing a wonderful job here at North Carolina. And so it's been fun for us to be a part of it here together. And so I think we're getting ready to have a good team, and it's fun being able to win. I think we're in position to do so.
Right. I knew that Mac's brother, he'd taken the head job at Tennessee Tech for a while, but I didn't realize that those guys were from the Cookeville
I
area.
didn't either.
So that's a pretty cool piece of information that I didn't know. You talk
Yeah.
a little bit about your expectations this upcoming year. You all ended last year at 7-3. I think fourth in the ACC. Ended up at 18. You're projected, I think, at number 8 or 9 in the early polls or whatever. What are your expectations for UNC going into this next year?
Well, we have big ambition, Coach Brown. We want to win all of our games. And we realize there's this team south of us called Clemson that's kind of beat everybody up in this league for a long time, and they do a wonderful job there. But if you're gonna get to where we all want to go to, and that would be the ACC championship, and then we got to go through Clemson to get it done. And so I think everything we're doing is trying to match them and all. We did. We don't play Clemson this fall in the regular season. We did play them my first year here. Came down to a 2-point play that we didn't successfully make. It was
Right.
close. But anyway, I think our ambition is to do what they've been doing, and that's win the ACC and then get into that tournament of the playoffs and try to win the national championship. Coach Brown won the national championship once at the University of Texas, so he knows how. And takes great players, but we're getting great players. We got a great quarterback. His name is Sam Howell,
Yes.
who's really an outstanding player. But we've surrounded him, I think, with good players on both sides of the ball now. So I think we're pretty good. I think we ought to be able to stand up and stick our tongue out about anybody we go play against and try to beat them. So it's going to be a fun year.
Oh, absolutely. You guys have done a phenomenal job there as a staff at UNC. I mean, a school that's more known for basketball. You guys had. I'm gonna go ahead and go in my next because it kind of led into this question I had a little bit later on. But I'm gonna go ahead. You guys had 2 running backs that had 1,000 yards last year. Michael Carter and Javante Williams. One had, I think, Carter had 1,245, and Mr. Williams had a 1140, and they're both in the NFL right now. You brought in Ty Chandler from the University of Tennessee, and you got Sam Howell, who's early on being talked about for the Heisman. Talk about those 2 guys, and I know you guys have, I think, 8 returning starters on offense and 10 on defense. Talk about some of those guys if you don't mind, and some of your expectations for them.
Ty has been a great addition to our team here. We did lose both of those backs, as you pointed out, and they were really outstanding players. And Javante Williams was a junior, so he could have come back, and we were happy for him. He was drafted by the Broncos, but sad for us that we lost him.
Right.
We lost both of those guys prior to the Orange Bowl last year, and we actually played without them in the Orange Bowl. But we've adding Ty to that will help us a great deal. And we've got some young backs that they look like they can be good players for us as well. Sam obviously is leader of our football team, Sam Howell, and he's an outstanding player and he's a hard worker and a real team guy. So I think that our football team is responding to that. And probably the most important thing is that we did lose a lot of great yards, lost a great receiver to the Washington football team, and but we've got some guys coming in their place as well. But the biggest improvement, I believe, is going to be on defense. One thing Coach Brown did when he was here before, and there's some guys around in North Carolina that are defensive linemen, pass rushers and such. So I think our team is going to take on a different look. We're going to look like Clemson and some of those guys now, at least when we get off the bus and get back to the field. But I think that we got a chance to improve vastly on defense. We have our kicker and our punter back, and so that's a plus. I think we have things in place. We need for a Ty and maybe one or two of those young backs to come along and offer some production as the 2 guys did for us last year. But I think overall that with the improvement on defense, the improvement in our special teams, and we've got some big old nasty offensive linemen, that can create some holes and stuff for us. And I think we can be productive offensively. We have a fun schedule ahead of us and all, but I think we have an opportunity to have a really good year. And um, the way the kids work and their effort and their attitude toward our team, and Coach Brown obviously is the leader of that responsibility and stuff. But I think there's reason for optimism at North Carolina right now with the results. You can lose with good players, but it's really hard to win without them. And I think we got good players now. I think we can be attractive football team.
Oh, I think so. I think the recruits are going to look and see what you're doing there in the ACC, and as long as you're competitive with Clemson, you're still going to get those recruits coming in that are going to help you, like you said, not only be competitive with them but also beat them. Clemson is a beast, but I think that what you guys have done and Coach Brown have done there out of last season going into this season, I think you guys are going to be more than competitive on a national spotlight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Coach, I have a couple other questions, but one that just came to mind that I'm just curious about. You played your college ball at Carson Newman, um, and what actually sparked the coaching interest? Did you always know you wanted to be a coach, and if so, like how did you get into college coaching? Who got you into it?
I think that it started at a real early age. Probably Blackie Williamson, who was my junior high coach, started elementary football, junior high football when I was at Oneida. I think I was in the sixth grade, and he started up the booster club, got together and bought some uniforms, and we started playing football in at that level. And he was just inspiration to me. He was the one that would check my grade card, every time it came out, and get after me if I wasn't doing the right things. And he just loved me when I probably just another one of those little boys running around out there, and had a great influence on my life. And so he, and then growing up through Coach Daniel, Ben Daniel, when he was our head coach at that time, and so I think it just the community of Oneida was so supportive to our teams, and they'd come out and watch the Indians play, and you just it meant a lot to be a child growing up there, I think, and had the greatest influence on me. My brother Don started coaching. He's about 6 years older than me, so that again added to my thoughts a little bit about wanting to do that. But it seemed to me that the most success I'd had to do with athletics. So you have a tendency to do what you kind of feel like you're good at. And then had a chance to go to Carson Newman, and a guy named Dal Sheely, who was a wonderful man, great coach there. He recruited me, and he was like a second father to me while I was there. And so just the influence coaches have had on my life had driven me in that way. And so it's been a fun drive for us. I have a son now who's the tight end coach at the University of Missouri.
Oh, wow.
So he followed that kind of trend. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to kind of apologize for coaching, but then he decided to do it, so it must not have been too bad. And so anyway, it's been a good life, is a good life right now for me, and I think having an opportunity this year again to be a part of the Star Hill football program is fun,
Right.
and I believe that it's something that we can enjoy doing, and just try to keep coaching ball. I get up every day and get my lunch money and go play ball, and that's what I've done since I was in school there at Oneida. So it's not a bad life.
Right. Well, you've certainly had some interesting stops along the way on your career, and you were the head coach at App State, and had some successful seasons there. But at that time when you were there, they were an FCS program. Since then, they went on. They've had some, a lot of attention, and now they're in FBS, playing in the Sun Belt. What's it like to be able to, to see that, to know what it was when you were there, and to see them, because I'm sure you still follow it a little bit, follow them. What's it like to be able to see them competing at the biggest level now in FBS?
It's really incredible what they've done at Appalachian State, and when we went there, they had not had a lot of success. They had.
Right.
they had been. I remember they used to make jokes. You know, Appalachian or Appalachian or how y'all pronounce it, and then they would say, "Do y'all wear shoes up there?" and stuff. You know, but they were eager, and it was a neat community as well. And then when we were able to start winning there, it really took off. And then I think we'd won like 19 straight after when I left or something, conference
Yep.
games stuff. And we had good players. We had some great players while we were there. We had some high draft choices that came out of there. And at that time, as you mentioned, we were a used to be called Division One AA. You
Right.
know, it was,
Right.
but at that time we were able to win, and then we left and went to the University of South Carolina, and then Jerry Moore was hired to when I left, and boy, they continued to move forward there at App, and now that they beat us since we were here at North Carolina. We do go back up there not this fall, but year after next. So they're really an outstanding program, and they win. And I know we started there's a little sign that we put up in the state of North Carolina. We put a star on the top of it that said, "Today I give my all for Appalachian State." And if you walk in their field house right now, there's on the whole side of the wall a big picture of that. So it's carried over and carried over. And a
That's
lot of
awesome.
times, Jesse, it's harder to keep a job going than it is to get one going. And it's
Right.
amazing what they've done. And they're you better bring your best game when you go play them. They're good.
Well, and you mentioned South Carolina too, which was actually my next question on the list. You also had a very historic moment there too. You took South Carolina. You were there when they went from independent to SEC. So, what was the experience like going into the SEC, and what all went into that transition, making that move?
And that was an interesting time for me too. I was pretty young, and when we took the South Carolina job, I I remember that they had gone through a lot of tough times. They were on indefinite probation. They had really a lot of bad things happen to them. They had a steroid um, thing, issue where they were actually made the cover of Sports Illustrated with this player with this gun in his mouth, and so it was a tough time when we first entered South Carolina. But it too was made up of great people, very similar to Oneida type people that loved football, and it offered so much. They'd show up and win or tie, they were there, happy with you and stuff and fighting for you. And so it presented a great opportunity to us. The timing was bad because we went through that, and then right after we felt like we were starting to get some things going, we went from finishing the season with playing Wake Forest and Duke and East Carolina, and to playing Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and Clemson in the last games. So
Yeah.
it had a big change in itself, and it's pretty simple why you win. You get good players, you coach them good, and you have a fair schedule. Our schedule went from being a whole much more competitive than it was. But anyways, great experience for us. We enjoyed our time there. Had be around a lot of great people and players too, and coaches, and so family, friends. And South Carolina is, they're still going through some of these transitions, but they share a small state with a pretty good team in Clemson, so it's a hard job. But they've got a great place, and it's in a great town. So Coach Beamer, who's their new head coach now, is probably walking through some of the same steps that I did. We were both young when we got it and stuff. So yeah, I know he'll do a great job there. We're going to do everything we can to keep him out of North Carolina and stay across the border. It was a fun experience for me, and it was one that, again, I think timing is everything in your life, and the timing to go there probably wasn't the best, but there was a great athletic director by the name of King Dixon who just passed away this year, who really loved the Gamecocks and was a great ambassador to that school, and I loved him, and I wanted very much to help South Carolina do well with him there. And I think we made a lot of progress moves. Getting into the SEC was huge. I
Yeah.
don't think we got into it when I went there because we were on probation and all that. We got off probation. We can convince the SEC that we would be a competitive school to join and quality in every way, and I think they're doing that, and so it's been it's part of that journey, but it's a neat place and a good experience for us and our family to be a part of.
Absolutely. You talk about going, making that transition to the SEC. Uh, I had a thought. Just for somebody that's been, to like App State and VMI, which you was the head coach at for a good number of years at South Carolina. What stadium or experience, just from an environment, a game environment, which program or which college football program has the most exciting game experience that you've been a part of?
Well, there's not one. There's one that's not very far from you, right there in Knoxville. It's pretty rowdy when you go in there. And I had a chance. I started my coaching there in 1976 as a graduate assistant.
Mm-hmm.
We had some great players, and Larry Seaver and Stanley Morgan and some of those kind of guys on the team.
Right.
Coach Battle was wonderful to me, and gave me a chance to come in there. I actually got fired right afterwards. We all did, and they brought in Johnny Majors. I was with Coach Majors for a while there before I left and went to Kansas. But it's a great place. I guess the most impressive place football wise for everything was the time I spent at Alabama. They kind of have about everything you need. Again, timing is big. When I went there, we were on probation when I took that job, and so it was a challenge to get out of that. I went there with Mike Price, and he didn't make it to the first season. Then Mike Shula came in. Mike was great to me. He kept me, and so I enjoyed being around Mike, and he was super to me. And I thought we were close to getting that done when they let him and our staff go and brought in Coach Saban, and of course the rest is history. But
Yeah.
Their campus is pretty impressive. They've got a 5-star hotel right across the street that's got a football museum in it, and
Oh, wow.
Coach Bryant and all. But the Southeastern Conference and the Atlantic Coast Conference are both. It's fun to be a part of. I had an opportunity one year after South Carolina to go to the New York Jets,
Mm-hmm.
and worked in the NFL for 1 year with Pete Carroll, who was the head coach for about 8.5 months. And we were so, but college football, you're playing for that Ram, or you're playing for that Vol, or it's just kids are. It's exciting being in a college town, college campus, and that kind of thing. So, my one experience in pro football, although it was great, it doesn't match the feeling you have going to work every day and seeing all the kids going to class. And
Right.
stuff like
I agree. I enjoy the NFL, but where my passion lies with watching and talking with friends, and when we started this podcast too, I wanted to focus on college football because it is exciting. Like you talk about, Neyland Stadium is a great environment. So is
stomping on those metal bleachers and stuff. It gets pretty loud.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, just anywhere, any of the college campuses that I've been to, it doesn't compare. I've got a chance to go watch the Dallas Cowboys a couple of years ago with their new stadium, and as beautiful as it was, and it's a beautiful stadium. I go back to Neyland, and I'm like, it doesn't compare. The environment around the game, the fans, and all that, it does not compare to college football, and I think you're right about that.
My son is a graduate of Tennessee, and he actually played there while I was coaching at Alabama. So we played against each other, and so I always used to afraid to bring the game plan home. Afraid his mother would send it to Knoxville. It was a great experience, and now my sister's son is the deep snapper at Tennessee. And
Oh, wow.
Matthew Solansky, and he's doing a wonderful job. And I saw where our punter from Oneida is going to get an opportunity to go over there and work.
Mr. Colby Morgan, yeah.
Talented guy he is, and I know Coach Lambert's real proud of what he did. Now Coach May.
Right.
Well, Coach, that kind of brings me to a question I had too about the small rural areas. You grew up and played here, so you know what it's like for these small town teams. Oftentimes, there are some talented athletes that can come out of areas like this, but sometimes they get overlooked because of the location and things. How much of an emphasis did you put on finding athletes in the small rural areas that a lot of larger programs probably never even looked at?
I think that it's not as doesn't happen as much as it used to because of social media now. I think
Right.
used to. I know when I first started recruiting, I'd find one guy that was out on some dirt road, and I could hide him and make sure I signed one anyway on signing day. But that's no longer the case. There's no secrets. They go to these camps and word gets out and stuff pretty fast. I do think there's a lot more kids. College football is more. Um, there's more interest there than there's probably ever been, and because of it, there's more players that are available to people out there. So I think guys it's harder to hide them than it used to be. But I tell you, those small towns. If you go back and look at people like George Rogers and uh, uh, I remember Garrison Hurst went to Lincolnton, Georgia when I was in South Carolina, little town. But you go there on Friday night, it's a good time to rob the bank because everybody's at the ball game, and all. So it was I think they're there, and you just got to look for them. And coaches do a good job of getting them out. One thing I think is a concern for me is that when I first started coaching at Tennessee, we actually had an early signing period. We had an SEC letter. This was in 1976, but we signed a letter that locked you away from the other teams in the conference. So we'd sign somebody, and then we didn't have to worry about Georgia or Alabama or some of those coming. But then here would come Michigan, Ohio State, and those. So you had to kind of recruit them again to sign them, and then we moved it back. So cause it seemed like all we did was recruit. So we went ahead, we played the season, and then we recruit and sign. But now we've kind of moved that signing date back up. So what's happening now is more and more there's decisions made on kids at a real early age. Like when they're coming out of their freshman year or sophomore year or something.
Right.
And oftentimes, I think kids in smaller towns, which with a few athletes, they play all sports, which is good. You should, they play basketball and they play football and all this, and so sometimes they don't develop as fast as some of the guys who are in more of the entrance areas that could get to Atlanta or get somewhere like that, and they focus on so that they get the word out a little bit more. So I think that punishes a smaller town school a little bit. You take a guy that I know when I was a junior, I might have weighed 160 pounds or something, and in my senior year, I went to 185. Well, decisions are being made now at that earlier time. So a lot of times, if you're a late developer, or late bloomer, so to speak, it sometimes punishes guys that, I know right now we sign guys that'll weigh 175 pounds, and in 2 years they're 215 pounds, and change their body a lot.
Right.
So I think that might have some. I'm concerned that we make decisions early on kids that if we could wait and let them get into their senior year and stuff, it'd
Right.
be safer anyway for both sides.
Well, it's almost like keeping up with the Joneses. If a Michigan or Ohio State or a USC, Texas, that starts recruiting a kid at like you talk about being a sophomore or freshman, that puts UNC at a disadvantage. So what do you guys have to do? Well, you got to do the same thing and try to get to those kids as early as possible. So and I agree, it is one of those things of as a 15, 16-year-old kid, your body's not as developed as it should be by the time as an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old that's going to be a senior in high school. So I 100% agree with that. We're trying to get to too far ahead of the curve if that makes any sense.
I think we do. I think it's easy to do that. And I think what happens is anytime there's so much attention to it, you get other outside sources involved, kind of like agents or something, and they start pushing it. And these kids they work the recruiting deal. I've got this many offers or something, and you
Right.
feel like you better or you're not going to be in it or things such as that. So
Right.
I fear a little bit about it and of how we're doing it. And I think sometimes it's not as good for the kids and all, but it creates situations where I've been offered, but it's not an offer that you can take yet, or it is one, or is it? And they back out of their offer and go to another school or something like that. So
Right.
I think it's just become anytime. I remember it seemed like when I first started, everybody was glad to get the players, but nobody was so interested in recruiting. I remember at Tennessee, for instance, we signed 44 kids. You had an unlimited number that you could sign. Then now 25 is the max, but
Right.
I think our 44th kid. We heard there was a receiver over in Clinton, Tennessee, that was a pretty good player. We heard Vanderbilt was going to offer him a scholarship, so we thought we better go over in scholarship, and we didn't want him to go to Vanderbilt. It ended up being Larry Sievers, two-time All-American
Right.
for us there. So it's just then you could sign unlimited. Now you're down to 25, so it makes your choices even more important, and
Right.
and all. And then the transfer rule now is where you can transfer anywhere. It's taking on a lot different look. So
Right.
It's got to be confusing to the kids. Certainly is to me.
I'm actually out of questions. I'm going to move into
all my questions.
Okay.
Been awesome.
I'm going to step off the football train just for a moment, Sparky. I was doing a little bit of research on you, and I found that you're a big Night Ranger fan. The band Night Ranger, is that right?
What now? I'm sorry.
Night Ranger, is that the name of the band? Night Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, probably son or something, but maybe.
Well, I may have read wrong. Then I'm not going to go too far into it. If not, I was going to ask you, about concerts and if you'd been to any of their guys. But like I said, I'm not going to get into that.
Not in a while.
Not in a while. Okay.
Hey, I have a question though that I just saw in my notes that I didn't see before. There was a note that when you were at South Carolina, going along with your rock song here, Keith,
right.
there was a song that was made called Sparky Rock on cassette. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, some guy, everybody sits trying to make money. They when I got there, somebody had written a song and it's called the Sparky Rock or something. A lot of people had a lot of fun with me out of that. So I can't play radio, much less anything else. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, South Carolina's a fun place. A lot of things happen like it went on. So somebody written a song and
that's pretty cool.
That was a long time ago.
You've hit big time when you're getting songs wrote about you. Coach, we've got one last thing before we'll let you go because I know you're a really busy guy. We always end our podcast here with what we call a 5 and 5, 5 topics in 5 minutes, and we did this with Coach Jamie Chadwell. We've done it between the two of us, just different things. But we've got a special one for you. We would like to know 5 coaches that you would have liked to work with, past or present. That either you somebody you would really want to be a part of, learn from, advise to, any of that. 5 coaches you'd like to work with, past or present.
Well, obviously, Coach Brown's had a big impact in my life, and I did have a chance to work for Pete Carroll, and I've been around Coach Shula. I've been around some really neat people like that. I had a chance to work for Jackie Sherrill and George Welsh and all. One guy that really sticks out to me was the head coach at Iowa State. He didn't have the best career, but his name was Donnie Duncan. He passed away last year. He was a great coach. Came out of Oklahoma. Just a great man. Influenced me a lot. But probably when you have to go back to Dow Shigley, who went on from being my coach at Carson Newman to being the head of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and probably saved that organization, in my opinion, a few years back. It's just a wonderful, wonderful man who really had influence on me. Loved me when I didn't deserve to be, probably, and all gave me a chance to come there and play football. And then, the influence that I don't think people understand. I hear in my ear plenty of times where a guy like Ben Daniel or Blackie Williamson or Joe Blackburn, when he was my basketball coach in high school, things they've done or said, it sticks to me now, really, and all. So I had a chance to be around a lot of great coaches, but certainly for what the role they were in and the influence on my life. And we're all about people and doing right things, people. Those
right.
There are a lot of names, but certainly it'd be hard for me to rank anybody ahead of Coach Williamson or Coach Daniel, who nourished me when I needed it most of them.
That's a good answer. It's a really good answer. Well, Coach Sparky, been a pleasure. It really has. Love that you took some time out of your busy day.
Thank you.
So, really do appreciate it. Love to have you on maybe at some point in the season as it's going on, get you back on here, talk about North Carolina football and hopefully how much of a success you and Coach Brown are having there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the plan, right? Is just to have a great, successful season and end up in that national spotlight of the playoffs.
We'll talk to you the week after the ACC championship game.
Right.
That's true. That'd be a fun conversation to have.
Yeah.
Please tell everybody in Oneida that I think appreciate all the things they had in life and involved me and stuff. My family grew up there and all, and then people like George Roark, who had Roark's service station. We could all get there. He'd work you on Sunday, let you watch cars, to give you a little money or so, you know. And then people that now like Robert Wright that are there, who I know that
awesome.
care about kids and do the right thing for them. So just great place to grow up, be around. People love you and treat you good. So wonderful memories and all. But I'd love to do that. Let's hope we can have a kind of year we hope to have here, and hope will be something to talk to, and maybe go down there and try to reach one of those big goals, get one of those big rings like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you talk about Coach Wright. Him and my dad coached at Scott High, and places together. I think they may have spent some time in the middle school level too. I can't remember. I know they coached in high school, and I can remember going by as a child. Dad would take us by Coach Wright and his dad's shop there in Oneida, and I've got a lot of good memories of Coach Wright.
He was super. And every time I set a record, he'd break it. He was an outstanding guy in every way. And so his family, I know his son's doing a good job coaching. So.
Oh yeah, Jake's doing a wonderful job.
Absolutely.
I really do like watching Jake coach. He's doing a wonderful job there at Scott High. But yeah, I've got really fond memories of Coach Wright and him and my dad coaching together. So, but yeah, like I said.
You can have me on. I really do.
All right, we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back, and hopefully we'll have a big smile on your face. Like you said, a big ring on your finger, and good luck to you all this year. And like I said, really do appreciate you having us on.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.